Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the first of these mini learning series. They're intended to be pretty short, just 10, 15 minutes, and going over some kind of interesting skills, short little hints and tips and tricks for things like Excel, various apps, other things that the GIS team or ML has encountered in their kind of day-to-day work, or maybe in a workshop or training, and bringing those kind of learnings back to the wider ISD in short, easy to use sessions. The idea is that there will be materials made available online, both a kind of walkthrough document, the Google Doc that I've shared around, as well as example and practice data sets if the particular session is helped out by that. Just a reminder that I'm going to record these sessions. So be aware that if you say or type anything, that can show up in the recording. This first one today, wanted to talk about something called Borda Count. This is a neat little way to analyze ranking data that I've encountered, and might be useful if you are analyzing some sort of assessment data, or just having like a book club and you had people rank their choices. You can figure out which choice is the highest priority across the group. In the Google Doc just today, at the bottom, I've added some further reading resources. So if you've looked at it, note that that has now been added. And some of those go into more detail about kind of the caveats for using this in a more robust M&E situation. Also, I'm sure if you wanted to reach out to Yejin or anybody else on the M&E team, they'd be more than happy to talk to you about how to make sure that this is statistically robust if you're planning on using assessment data in some sort of programming or response situation. So we'll jump right into it. I've attached the sample data. It's linked at the top of the Google Doc, the spreadsheet there. You can do everything in Google Sheets. You can also download, if you go to File, Download As, you can save this as a Microsoft Excel file. So I have done that here. And you can see that in this particular example of data, this would probably be a subset of a larger survey. We have a couple of columns. One is just identifying, in this case, the Nepal VDC, from which this data might have come. And then 3 columns for their first highest priority in terms of livelihoods, second highest priority, and third highest priority. This might be priority, might be like most impacted livelihoods. I'm not sure, we don't have access to the actual survey here. But the first thing you need to do is understand all the possible unique options which they might have answered. If this was a online, if you have access to the survey questionnaire itself, you might be able to look at the options and just pull it directly from there. Or you can come in and get it from the data itself. So you'll need all 3 columns. So I'm selecting the first column. I'm going to paste that off to the side here. The second group of questions, I'm going to paste that down below, so creating a longer list. And then the third priority, I'll paste those at the very bottom of that. And so each individual column might not have contained all the possible options. Like there might have been an option that no one selected as the highest priority. That's why we need to grab the data from all 3. Now we have a column with all the possible answers. We can, I'm just Control A to select that entire column. And then Excel has a pretty neat option. Under the data tab at the top, it might be somewhere else if you have an older version of Excel, but the functionality is still there. there is a remove duplicates option. So you can click that and just leave select all, column G, both checked. And then if you hit OK, you can see it removes all the duplicate values and leaves you with the 8 unique remaining. So now we can start calculating our priority. Here I'll just add a column header that these are values. I'm going to add 3 columns for first, second, and third. And I want to know how many times livestock appeared as in the answer in that first priority column. So Excel has a formula called COUNTIF. And when typing a formula into Excel, it'll give you some help prompts. Here you can see it's telling you the 2 inputs for the formula, the range and the criteria, and that you're currently working on the range. And if you click those blue links inside of that help, it'll open up the more detailed help and allow you to see more about it. So here, my range is that first column, C2 through 65. Oops. Then my criteria, I want it to match that value in G2. And you can see that now in that range, it's counting that livestock appears 4 times. And if you wanted to scroll down and check, you could read 1, 2, and then find the other 2 for 4. We want to be able to copy and paste this formula down as is. If you change it, you can see that it's very small, but the formula correctly updated. It's referencing now G3, so correctly referencing the second value of casual agriculture. But if we look at our range, we can see the range also shifted down. And we don't want to do that because we're going to potentially miss values later on. So we need to go back to our formula, and by adding $ next to the column and row references in our range, we can lock that range, lock those values. Now, as we copy it down, if we look at any of those formulas, they're all referencing the correct range. It doesn't shift, but the criteria cell does shift as you copy down. So now we want to do the same thing for our second COUNTIF, but then select the COUNTIF range for the second values and add in that add in the reference to the livestock. And then again, we're going to copy it down. So we need to lock the column and row references for our range. And then we can copy it down. COUNTIF. And then this one, so E2 through, was it E66, 65. And then G2. So now we have the counts for the number of times it appears in each one. And to calculate our score, we want to give a point value of 3 for each time it appears the highest priority 1, 2 points for each time it appears in second, and 1 point for each time it appears in third. So we can quickly do this with a formula where the first, so H2 times 3 plus I2 times 2 plus J2 times 1. Oops, let's see real quick, turn that off. Okay. And then we're going to normalize the score so it's against the total number of answers, so that's a little bit easier. So here we can divide by the I forget what I said to use. So count A tells you the number of values in a data set. So dividing basically by 65 and then updating our formulas. And that will give us our scores. Did I mess up somewhere? Oh, so again, yep, I made a mistake. I forgot that the range is fixed. You can see it's shifting down for each one. And the sum of your scores should add up to the total possible, to the score from all the different rankings. So 3 points plus 2 points plus 1 point, it should add up to 6. It doesn't add up to 6 because I had a reference that should stay fixed. So I'm changing now my count A formula to be fixed, dragging that out to update my formulas, and you can see now it adds up to 6. And another neat functionality in Excel and also in Google Sheets is conditional formatting. So instead of going through and trying to maybe like manually highlighting the score that's highest, you can select a range, and then under the Home tab, there's a option for conditional formatting. And so we can add in a color scale whereby it colors the highest value darkest and the lowest value lightest. And if you look into the more rules option, you can adjust the way that it's formatting and the values and stuff to whatever you want, basically. Oops. Okay. And that is the way to use Borda Count in a nutshell. If anybody had any questions, if they took a look at the any of the materials, or if they tried it and they ran into issues, be happy to talk about that now. If people can unmute or type into the chat.
Hey, Dan, this is Amy. Yeah, I have a question. Thanks so much for this. This is really good to see. I just have a question. So this, final step here where you took the sum and then you divided it by the total, the total count to get this, 0.91, 2.16. If you were, I guess I'm just curious about what actually the value of this final step is, and the importance of making one last step, because it seems like I could just, if all I want to know is what were the top 3, I could just not even do that final step and I can still see, right, what the highest values were. So if you could just speak a little bit more, like maybe just from, you need to do this final step so that you can actually report on the exact values. But that's that's needed, or guess just trying to figure out why exactly that final step is needed. Because I can still see the highest counts, right?
So the multiplying each by the 3, the 2, and the 1 weights it and allows you to kind of see preference across the different rankings. So yes, in this case, like 45 with casual agriculture being the number of times it was ranked highest priority does align with the final score ranking, whereby it is the highest.
Uh-huh.
Then agricultural sales has the second highest count for first priority, but falls lower in the ranking because it doesn't have as many who ranked it second and third priority. So it allows to kind of aggregate across all the rankings that people might have given a particular category. And so like something that maybe was not very often ranked first, but very frequently ranked second, might still show up highly in the final score.
Okay.
Like something can show up high in the final calculated ranking based only on being frequently second or third priority, not just first priority. And so by multiplying the counts for the different priorities, first, second, third, by those weightings, where first count gets 3 points, a second count gets 2 points, and a third count gets 1 point, it allows you to combine those 3 columns of data into one aggregated score.
Right. I guess I'm just saying, you had the values in column K, and then you divided them to get the values in column L. So what's the value in doing that final step to get the value in L?
So to normalize it by like the total number of rows just makes it a little bit easier to interpret, I think, and also doesn't
Okay.
like if you look at the unnormalized values, you're like, oh my goodness, 138 is a way bigger than 1. But like that's not like an accurate representation. Like that magnitude difference is not something that really means anything.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess my question was, if I'm just doing this for my own purposes, I'm just trying to find out the top 3, taking it as far as column K is fine, right? But if I'm wanting to, really do the full board account, make it really clean, report it out, then I need to do that final step. Yes, because it doesn't change the rankings at all.
Yeah, if you're just looking to rank the top 3, be like, listen, casual agriculture, livestock, and agricultural sales / trade. Like, yeah, just the column K is fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
So the weights, there's a couple different, this is answering a chat from Eva. She asked, how are the weights typically determined? Based on there's a couple different Borda Counts versions. I think there's one where like the lowest priority gets a 0 score. The one I'm using is just where the number of prioritizations is flipped for the weights. So 3 options, highest one gets 3, lowest one gets 1. And I also, it's in the Word doc, but I missed going over it earlier when I was talking about things. So also, in addition to sorting in Excel, there's a fun function, rank, that will tell you the rank of a item within a larger data set. So here you can see the help is popping up that the first variable that it wants is a number. Right, so I want to find the rank of K2 within this reference K2 to K9. I want to lock that K2 to K9 because that's not going to change. And then I can copy out, drag out my formula, and it gives me those rank numbers. And a thing to note, the way that it treats matching equal scores or equal values is that it assigns them the same rank. So here we can see the 1, 2, and then there's 2, 3 in the data set. And then it, however many matches there are, it skips to the next rank. So here there's no 4, but then it resumes with 5, 6, 7, 8. So the lowest rank using the formula will coincide with the total number of values in the data set. And so just to be aware of how that treats that if using this.
Hey, this is Amy again, Dan. I've got another question, and I see Jen's on. Maybe Jen would want to weigh in on this too. But if you have a situation like this where you really only need to report the top 3, but now you've got a tie, I mean, would you just report on the 4 then, or is there something you use that you would actually kind of do a tiebreaker between those? How do you handle that in your reporting?
Personally, I would just report that like both like tied for third highest priority is agricultural sales and trade. And then hopefully if you're doing some sort of analysis, like an emergency needs assessment or like a program report, you would have additional data that you could use to maybe make recommendations about which of those is higher priority.
Okay.
And in this case, like it might be that there's even some overlap or confusion about among the respondents between these two, since like agricultural sales could very well fall under like the larger umbrella of trade. So actually, like might be a recommendation to whoever designed the survey to think about being more explicit in what those two categories contain.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. If anybody doesn't have the chat open, Yejin says, assuming you've been clear with your criteria survey design, simply report both. Simply say there was a tie for third and fourth and point to other qualitative data for decision making. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'm real quick going to drop a link to a feedback survey that should only take a minute or two of your time. If you could fill that out, it'd be much appreciated and help me do better with future ones of these. There's also an option to suggest topics that you're interested in and things like that. And also feel free to reach out via email or other communication methods if you have any additional questions or comments. Take care.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.